myself again.
Good morning and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith, and an early start with Liam Kennedy today. Both of us are quite busy and we thought we'd get this in nice and early. Still time for you to get your questions in. Got quite a few on Twitter. Morning, Liam.
Morning. Aye, nice and early. I suppose it's getting harder and harder for to fit this in, but we'll always find time for everybody out there who wants to keep watching, man.
Yeah, apologies to everybody who thought Steve Bruce might be getting sacked because we'd gone for a 10:30 start. Like, I'm afraid we don't command that kind of power in the corridors of St James's Park yet. But yeah, I mean, look, it's a hell of a 24 hours again, and you know, just because the takeover's done and dusted doesn't mean there isn't plenty to talk about over the last 7 days. And the news that came out from the Premier League really is the starting topic, I guess, which, you know, was that 18 clubs, not 19. I wonder who the other club is. Could it be Man City? The 18 clubs have now tried another little chess move, haven't they, now that the takeover has been done? What have you made of what's come out of the Premier League? And just explain to those maybe who haven't caught up with recent developments what's happened. Well,
effectively, I'll try and put this in layman's terms, that 18 of the clubs of the 20 clubs of the Premier League have agreed that sponsorship deals, for example, or commercial agreements shouldn't happen between, say, for example, owners and associated companies. So that obviously causes issues for Manchester City, who were the other club who reportedly abstained in that vote, with a sort of Etihad and things like that, with regards to their owners. It would probably also cause problems for some other clubs. I've seen suggestions that training grounds at Leicester are sponsored by certain people, grounds, etc. I think it would cause little issues for others, but this is very much being seen as a drive to stop commercial revenues increasing massively overnight at Newcastle United. It's a month-long agreement initially, with hope, I think, from the other 18 that they can make it a lot more permanent. But that does put a little block, if it does move forward, put a little block in the way, because as I did a piece on Newcastle World recently with Kieran Maguire, one of the easy ways of increasing commercial revenue and wriggle room within FFP is to increase sponsorship deals with the likes of Vision 2030. Let's take Saudi as an example, or NEOM, or something related to that. Aramco, probably less so. But that's the kind of thing that undoubtedly the new owners were looking at. What I would say is it'd be interesting to know how this would stand up in law, whether they'd be able to push forward and implement it, and were they to do so, how vociferous the calls from the likes of Abu Dhabi and Saudi in Manchester City and Newcastle United would be. I suspect the way that they would get around it would be by taking legal action against the others and the Premier League and their rules. Legal action, again, that's what we're talking about. But yeah, it's look, what I would say is, and I think I've said it on here before, is everyone needs to grow a bit of a thicker skin, because this is only the start of what will happen, because of the size of our owners, because of the financial wealth that is at their disposal, because of their clear ambition to not only make Newcastle United a club that can compete in the Premier League, but to make it one that is a leader in the Premier League and in Europe. Speaking to a very, very, very well-placed source on Saturday, prior to the game, big connections in Saudi, PIF, big connections with Amanda Staveley, Murdoch Gadusi and PCP. And the quote that came away from that conversation for me was, they're not coming here to mess around. And I suspect Newcastle United, they'll want at least one, if not two, European Cups at Newcastle United in the next 10 years. Sounds utterly ridiculous. And my answer to that was, you realise you're talking about Newcastle United here. And I think you're saying that I'm going to have to pinch myself, but that is the kind of ambition that these owners are walking into St James's Park with.
And I've listened to a lot of supporters who've been, put up in front of cameras over the week. And I deliberately stepped away and didn't do anything this weekend, with the exception of Arab News for yourself, Liam. And people were asked the question, what's your ambition? Where do you see Newcastle being in a few years? All the usual stuff. And I was flabbergasted to hear fans saying, that they didn't really have any aims or ambitions. I mean, with this kind of investment, and if it's invested in the right areas, i.e. first team, first and foremost, we need to stay up. But then, in the academy, in the infrastructure, in the training facilities, I want Newcastle to be competing. You want to see Newcastle win the league. You want to see Newcastle win a League Cup. You want to see Newcastle win a UEFA Cup, whatever, Europa League, whatever. You know what I mean? You've got to have ambition. That's what it's all about. It's about getting the hope back. And maybe I feel some of these fans maybe were either too young, or they are in that position where they've just stagnated, and don't have any ambitions anymore. And that probably is where we're at, because Mike Ashley's had the club at such a low ebb that people have stopped dreaming. You know what I mean? And of course you want to win things. You know what I mean? We're back in that, opportunity of, competing again. And once, the wheels of industry start changing and the finance changes hands in January, and we start making some kind of inroads with players, I genuinely hope over the next few years we will see some progress. Let's get to some questions.
Sorry, Steve, I just want to quickly finish that point I was making. Is that what I would say on that front is these are people with massive ambitions, and where there is a will, there is always a way, and there is only so much that other clubs can do to prevent the progress that it will inevitably happen at Newcastle United. So what I would say to people is just keep calm about it. We've got a lot of immediate concerns, and it's funny because the first period of this ownership, this brighter future, is going to be be stuck in the mud almost of the last 15 years. We're going to have a season whereby there's going to have to be some major decisions made and some major building blocks put in place over the course of the next few days, weeks, months, and probably the next 12 months. So yeah, I think it's a really crucial point. But if Newcastle United can get through this season unscathed, then I think this is the lowest we will get for the medium term.
I agree, mate. I agree. We're both singing off the same hymn sheet. We both need to put our teeth in as well. These early mornings are no good for broadcasting. I'm going to ask Stuart Taylor's question because it's a little bit different, because a lot of people asking political questions and Premier League stuff. Stuart on Twitter said, "What are your views on the leaks continually coming out of the club?" Now, obviously, what he's pointing to here is we got a little alert last night from son of Steve Bruce, Alex Bruce on Twitter, saying that
very dignified, by the way. He obviously doesn't take a leaf out of his dad's book.
Another hopeless story. But I mean, look, at the end of the day, he deleted the tweet. As a lot of people say, deleting is cheating. However, most people had already screenshotted it, and it was circulating in the NUFC hashtag Twitter sphere. But ultimately, the story did break at 11 last night, that there'd been a bit of a spat in the tunnel between Jamal Lascelles and Isaac Hayden. Now, look, these things happen, and especially when you're getting beat. The last thing I want is me players coming off the pitch, giving each other a pat on the back, hugging and swapping shirts. I'd rather they were going hammering tongues at each other and saying, your fault, and try and get it sorted out on the training ground on Monday. But, it's the leaks, I guess. It's another story. And I think because it's come from Craig Hope again, there is that feeling that the club mole, which we haven't talked about for a while, is back out of his hole. What do you make of all of this?
Of all the stories and Hope, he's had some brilliant ones over the course of the last few years. Of all the stories in recent times, anyway, it's probably the one I've been least concerned about.
Yeah.
So the players are unhappy. Is that a surprise? They've just been. They were just. I mean, I've said this to a few people over the weekend. My son's team had a game on Sunday morning. Got beat 4-0. He came off the pitch, and I said to him, "You know what, son? That wasn't a bad 4-0. They conceded 2 goals late on. They played quite well. Wasn't a bad 4-0. Newcastle United's game later that day was an awful 3-2. And we all seen it. It was an awful 3-2. Any other given day could have been 6-1. It was that one-sided. And Tottenham just totally eased off in the second half. So do you think those players don't know that? They're coming off the pitch angry, upset. This was meant to be the new dawn. They've still got that bloke managing them. They're angry. Of course they are. So what? They have a bit of an argument. Jamal Lascelles obviously has got a little bit of a temper in him. He's certainly, I think that's probably 3 or 4 arguments he's had over the course of the time, but he's a good skipper. I'm not saying he's a great player, but he's a good skipper, and I don't mind that. Isaac Hayden's a really good professional. Few crosswords, bit of a squaring up. It's run-of-the-mill stuff. It really is run-of-the-mill stuff. It's the type of thing that happens in dressing rooms up and down the country. And feelings and emotions this weekend were amplified, really amplified. They would have walked off that pitch embarrassed, I would imagine. I think they would have felt ashamed that they hadn't been able to lay a glove on Tottenham, despite the fact they only ended up losing by 1 goal. And Templar's got a bit afraid. Well, so what? Thing is, you just the leaks are there because people are unhappy with the manager. There are certain sections of that dressing room do not want him anywhere near the dugout. We all know this. It's been like that for quite some time. It's been like that since the turn of the year. It's been a long process. They realise, you've got to remember, put yourself in their shoes. You've got a boss at work who you know is incompetent. Incompetent. Okay, I retract that one. That's maybe a bit strong. Is just not very good. Just really not very good. Doesn't set you the right tasks every morning when you're going to get up for work. Doesn't give you any leadership. Doesn't give you any clear plan on the way that you should work during the day. Doesn't give you any direction. That's Steve Bruce. Steve Bruce all over, and his band of merry men that he has with him as well. And players know that because they've worked with other managers. They've seen lots of other managers who all have their pros and cons. But I think it's got the point now where you have 2.5 years of it that some of them are absolutely sick of this. And they thought, I think like many of us and fans, thought that change would come. And it would come quite quickly because it was the easiest of finishes. It was like an open goal to the new owners. The first thing they should have done and haven't been able to do is get rid of Steve Bruce. But what I would say, and I've said this constantly, is there is an absolute inevitability about the fact that Steve Bruce will leave the football club, and it shouldn't be too long. When it happens, again, that's purely in the hands of the people who own the football club at the moment. It's quite clear that they want to have somebody in to replace him.
Well, let's go through a couple of the names. I mean, there's a few questions here. Lee Erickson says, lads, I'll keep it quick. It's simple. New manager needed ASAP. Zidane declined the offer, so who's next? Phoenix Window. He says, Lucien Favre, director of football, being tasked with bringing a new manager and a coach. Is this true? Pete, of course, who does the fans forum on a Monday for us, he says, do you believe the delay in the sacking Bruce is having a toxic effect on the players? Why do you believe it hasn't been actioned in the last 24 hours? Are the new owners having difficulties deciding a short-term or long-term manager? So lots of people asking the questions. I mean, are we any clearer? Are we any nearer to seeing somebody coming in? Wayne Rooney is the latest to be added to the list of managers this morning. It's just getting longer and longer.
Yeah, what I would say is that I think it's a really tough appointment. It's not an easy one for them to make because what are you appointing here at Newcastle? Are you looking for somebody who is going to come in and just keep them up and that be the end of it? Handshake at the end of the season, see you later, and I will get somebody we want. Are you going to have to go and poach? Are you looking for somebody a medium term? Are you going to have to go and poach from somebody else? Is there the type of managers that you want out of work? Can you do that? Are the managers out of work looking at things and thinking that is a shell of a football club in a really poor position? Is that something I'm going to take up now? Is anybody going to leave a job to do that? Look, the money and the project is a big sell. Let's not get away from that. But it might take a small step to make a bigger step in the future. And that isn't an easy appointment to make. It really isn't. Managers of all levels and all abilities will be queuing up to take this job. But getting the right one is key. For me, anyway. Because we need somebody who's going to... What I would think is they need to bring somebody in who can come in and shut the door. Can come in and just make them more organised defensively. because I look at that back, I'll say six. So you'd say go Darlow, Manquillo and Ritchie, Lascelles, Clark and Hayden. And I would say that back six, you could probably go into the playoff positions in the championship and find a better unit potentially. It's got a real championship feel about it.
Gary Neville said that on Monday Night Football. Jamie Carragher.
People have asked that question. I haven't seen the Monday Night Football stuff. So.
Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville nailed exactly that point to the cross last night. Right. That back four is the same back four that played in the Championship for Newcastle United in 2017. And they've got a left back who was signed as a right midfielder trying to do the job of a left back, i.e. Matt Ritchie. And they said it's relegation form. We've shipped 19 goals. We've shipped 19 goals. Look at the teams that we got the points against. And you're talking Southampton, aren't you? Leeds United, Watford. We're not looking too good, and we've got big games to come against big teams where you're thinking we're going to struggle. It's not pretty, Liam.
No, the thing is though, there are some. Look, there's the ace pack in the one they've got left. The ace they've got left is just changing the manager, and I think a new manager coming in without preconceptions on certain players will be able to look at that back four and say, okay, Federico Fernandez, 33, is he slightly over the hill? Possibly. Is he the same player that he was 3 or 4 years ago? No. But is he a better defender than Jamal Lascelles and Kieran Clark? Yes, I'll play him. Fabian Schär, a regular international for Switzerland. Does he have defensive frailties? Can he switch off and make rash challenges at times in the box? Does he always mark his man? Does he get beaten too easily? Yes, all of that. Is he a better defender than Jamal Lascelles and Kieran Clark? Yeah, right. So I'll play him. So there's an easy little fix there. Can I get Paul Dummett fit? A lad who never gets caught out, is always in the right position, and can play a left back, no bother. A proper left back. Can I get him fit? Can I get Martin Dubravka fit? As soon as you make those little decisions, you add Dubravka, Dummett, Shaw and Fernandez into that. It's got a whole new look to it. Of course, it's not going to win any awards for being the best defence on the planet, but could it improve it? I've no doubt it will improve it. Steve Bruce is stuck in his ways. Now, look, Kieran Clark hasn't been a disaster. I really wrote him off in pre-season. He hasn't been a disaster the last few games. But a centre-half partnership of Kieran Clark and Jamal Lascelles was the best centre-half partnership in 2016 in the Championship. That tells you everything. That they're a million miles away at the moment, Newcastle. And what I think they need a manager who's going to come in, make those simple tweaks, change things around a little bit, because the midfield isn't looking great either. But I think shut the door, a bit of defensive organisation, because this defensive, the way they're playing at the moment is absolutely shambolic. They literally look like a schoolboy team defending, cut open by anybody and everybody. And if anybody's looking at this, anybody who's seen the game last night, I didn't see it, but I've seen bits and bobs of Crystal Palace this season and know enough to think they've got enough in the forward areas to cause us all kinds of problems at the weekend, like all kinds of problems. So anybody thinking we're going to be going to Crystal Palace, thinking we can nick one like we have in previous seasons, they're going to have to start defending properly. And I think the only way to do that and start getting a point is stop conceding goals. Newcastle have got the odd player who can score a goal. Callum Wilson, Alan St-Maximin, Joe Willock, if he gets back to any kind of form. Sean Longstaff. There's a few in there who can chip in with a goal. Miguel Almiron. But at the moment, they're not giving themselves a chance in games. They're gifting teams goal after goal after goal. And when you're having to score 3 goals per game, which they are in the current statistics, you're not going to win many games in the Premier League. That's just fact. They need to give themselves a chance, and the way to give themselves a chance is to stop conceding goals. They need a new manager to come in and just organise and make sure they're not conceding goals. It won't be pretty, but again, let's just get ourselves through to January, because December is a disgusting fixture list for Newcastle United. So what we need to do is we need to get as many points over the next few weeks, and the best way to do that is by getting rid of the manager. They need to do it. It's come to the point now where I know there are plans and I know that what they're trying to do, but he has to go. He's a negative influence on the squad, on the team, on the crowd. It was described, I heard it described on the radio, I think, at the weekend, is he's almost Steve Bruce at the moment at Newcastle United. particularly on Sunday, was like an unwanted guest at the top table at a wedding. That's what he was. He's the person that nobody in that ground wants there, but he's there and he's stuck, and we're kind of doing out about it. So it's one of those where they need to get rid of him, and I have sympathy with them, and I understand their plans, but he's got to go. He has to go.
Look, I said that last night when I did John Sinclair's podcast. But at the same time, I do have some sympathy with the new owners, because they really didn't expect this takeover to go through as quickly as it did, and when it did. And I think ultimately they've been caught a little bit short. But if one week delay means getting the right person in, then, so be it. It's not going to make a great deal of difference. But
that's the thing, is it's short term, isn't it, Steve? Like, we've got to remember that he's going to be a distant memory. That pain on Sunday, almost the feeling of low and embarrassment almost with the players, and I felt it. I was watching that second half where Tottenham were just passing the ball around, and I mean, they could have, if they'd really wanted to put their foot on the pedal, they could have went and got a couple more in that second half. It was so easy for them. Watching that, I was sitting there thinking, God Almighty, like thinking what they're watching. I felt awkward.
Yeah, it was a cringe fest. It was, and I mean, I can't understand why the players aren't training today. Sunday, fair enough, game. Monday, day off, rest. We're sitting in Tuesday, Liam. The team is second bottom of the Premier League, and we're not training today. What is
the players want to train more? The players want to train more.
Some of our players look as if they're gassing with 20 minutes to go. They can't last 90 minutes. It's bizarre, mate. It really is. And the sooner that Bruce goes, the better. Well, is Eddie Howe rumour true? Says Stephen Parker.
Eddie Howe's a name that was mentioned. That was mentioned to me before the takeover went through is a distinct possibility, and it was hard to know whether those noises were coming as a result of a plan B in place from somebody like. Actually, I don't necessarily think it was. I tend to believe that he has been on some kind of shortlist as a come in now and just fill the role and do a job. Would I be against it? Absolutely not. I think there needs to be change, and I think anybody coming into that place could have a positive impact. Of course, there is levels, and you've got to make sure you get the right type of person. I honestly don't know enough about Eddie Howe's coaching and the way he builds defences, but that's what Newcastle need. They needed somebody who's going to organise the players that they've got into something that is capable of going to places and not conceding 3 goals every single place they go, or even at home. They need to just give themselves a chance in games, because they're struggling. They're never going to get results if they continue defending like this. It's a shambles.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm not so sure on Eddie Howe myself. I've got to be perfectly honest. He wouldn't be the top of my list, but he's got experience in the Premier League. I guess he was at Bournemouth, and they were in that period of when a player was doing well, they would sell him. You're never going to succeed when that happens. It's all about coming into the dressing room though and having that immediate effect, and looking around the dressing room. And who do you know? Well, he knows Callum Wilson. Gets on well with him. He knows Graham Jones, gets on well with him. Doesn't get on so well with Ryan Fraser. So, there's going to be pluses, there's going to be minuses if he does come in, but seems to be the name that is getting thrown around by the media heavily today as the person who would be coming in. Roy Hodgson as well, another one who people are mentioning in the chat as a short-term fix until the end of the season, until they can get a more permanent replacement for Steve Bruce. Again, I wouldn't be against that, because he's literally just stepped down from Crystal Palace. But would he want to come into the pressure cooker that is St James's Park? I'm not 100% sure. Liam, do you think or know if the sporting director has been appointed and is holding any managerial movement up? I mean, again, is that something that the consortium are looking at doing? Do they want to get everybody in place together, or are they finding the right partnership?
In an ideal world, of course, that's the way you want to do it. But this isn't an ideal world. They never expected this to happen. There needs to be a little bit more decisive action. There needs to be a little bit more agility in their decision making. Not necessarily the decision making, but needs to be in their movement. They need to get the ball rolling. And of course, you would want a sporting director. But what I would say is, even a sporting director, it isn't the top of the priority list at the moment. Newcastle United, it's a bit like saying that if they appoint a sporting director now, then they'll be fighting up at the top end of the division. It's a long-term thing. It's a long-term project, and I think for now they need a manager who's going to make sure that they stay up in this division and progress. I think they almost need, and I'm not talking about like your traditional Premier League firefighters, but they need somebody to come in with the idea that you've got to keep this team up and you've got to get it moving forward. And you never know if there's an opportunity comes up, if it's something that works, you might stay a little bit longer. It's a carrot that's got to be dangled at somebody. The idea of building everything from scratch, this isn't the summer. We're talking about we've already nearly gone a quarter of the Premier League season, and Newcastle United season looks like it's in dire straits. It is early, yes, but it's not really early. We're not talking 3 games here. We've had 9 games this season. That's a fair chunk of a season already. And I think there needs to be a little bit more urgency, in my opinion. That is just my opinion, but I do think there needs to be a little more urgency, because if it's allowed to slip, if Bruce is still at Crystal Palace and then it goes to Chelsea, you're starting to look like that's a very big chunk of the season gone and no wins still under Newcastle United's belt. They're going to need to do a lot. And like I said, they're probably going to be looking at if Bruce stays for another week, 2, 3, and results go the way you would expect, they're going to be in that bottom 3 in January, because December is a tough set of fixtures if you're at the top end of the division, never mind the bottom. Whether you've got new owners or not, and whether you've got a new manager, it's going to be a tough month. So that January window becomes huge. They need somebody who's going to steady the ship and get them out of this position. And it isn't Steve Bruce, and it isn't Graham Jones. It's somebody else. They need to bring somebody in who's going to solidify them defensively and get them going in the right direction. This is what this is about now. If this had happened in May, great. Let's get a sporting director in. Let's build the infrastructure. Let's get those building blocks ready, and then we can all be going in the same direction. These are type of decisions for me, and it's a personal thing. I could be talking absolute rubbish, believe it or not, but I think that's a type of decision that can be made next summer. I don't necessarily think it has to be something that has to come first now. I really do have concerns that this team could stay in the bottom 3 for the rest of the season if they continue defending like they are, and they need to change the manager, never mind the sporting director.
Yeah, it's huge decisions to make, and you know, I mean, Amanda Staveley was quoted in L'Equipe this week as well, an interview she did with them, saying that it was it's going to be an ongoing issue really, and that they need to get it right. You know, it's complicated, I think was the phrase she used. So, you know, it's going to be right when it's right, I guess, and until the right man comes in. They don't want to rush it and get it wrong and then stand accused of making the biggest cock up. Since the takeover went through, they want to get it right. So look, you know, we might have to put up with Bruce for another week or 2 yet. Let's wait and see him. Life Goals says, I know you were dumb, Steve, but Matt Ritchie isn't a left back. Yeah, I know that. And last season, wrung the last juice out of him. He's no Premier League player now. I disagree. Let Bournemouth take him in the summer. I still think Matt Ritchie will do a job, certainly this season anyway. I don't think he'll be there next season. But I think this season, play him in the right position, play him in the right formation, play him under a new manager, we can still get something out of them. There's still one last little bit to wring dry from Matt Ritchie. Chris says, morning lads, question for you both. How now seemingly the favourite for the job are going for the likes of him to do an SOS to keep us up and bring in a big name manager for next season? I mean, we've been talking about it, Chris, all along, but is Eddie Howe an SOS manager? Because I would imagine Eddie Howe's been knocking at the door and probably wants this job and sees this as a long term. He sees this, I guess, Liam, as a chance to establish himself as a top class manager, coming to a big club, big opportunity, big budget, instead of being at a smaller club like Bournemouth, where they're selling their players to survive. He's coming to a club now which has got a blueprint for success rolled up in a tube, and they're just about to unveil it. This is his chance, isn't it? I guess he's not looking to step in until the end of the season.
Well, no, probably not. But it wouldn't harm to bring a manager in with some kind of ambition who wants to be here. We've currently got a manager who is just desperate for his cash. That's all he wants. He's been sitting in this position for ages. He talked about weighing it up in the summer. I was gonna walk away. He didn't walk away. He didn't walk away. He said a few weeks ago that if he thought the time was right where he could no longer do this, he would walk away. He's the only man. He's the only man on the planet, I think, who has any interest in Newcastle United and knows the game at Newcastle United, who thinks he is the man who can turn this around. I mean, he's been in this position before. Never expected the post-Brighton turnaround last season. I sincerely hope, if he does remain, he goes and wins a few games. Because, like I said before, Newcastle United need to stay in this division. This isn't about Steve Bruce. I'm not really bothered what happens to Steve Bruce. If you said to me he will be here for the next 3 games and Newcastle will win all 3 games, I would snap your hand off. I really would. I want him gone as much as anybody. I think he needs to go. But if you could guaranteed win the next 3 games, Newcastle United will be in a much better position, because you've got to remember, inevitably, Steve Bruce will leave this football club. He's not going to be here for very long. Whether it's a day, a week, a month, he isn't going to be here very long. But they need results. So I would urge them, suggest they need to maybe make that decision. Because even it doesn't make sense in business terms to take somebody out of a job and not have anybody else do the job. You've lost out. It's nonsensical. But it happens in football. And it's about harmony in a dressing room. It's about new ideas. It's about spirit. There's a lot more to this than business. They need to make the decision, because he is a negative influence on this football club, on this fan base. That fan base was ready, crying for this success, and it delivered, and it lifted the players. You could see them. They were charging around, making tackles, closing down. They were brilliant for that first 10 minutes. And then Tottenham got the ball. As soon as Tottenham got the ball, it was better players playing against a schoolboy settle. And that's not the players' fault. They were trying. It was settled all wrong, and that's the manager. That's where these things differ from business decisions. Is football is an emotional game, and it's emotional for the players too. And he's sucked the emotion out of it.
Yeah, I agree. On our community part of our YouTube page, I've stuck a poll up. Never done it before. Is Eddie Howe the man for Newcastle United? Maybe he's drop onto there, place your vote, and we'll give an announcement at the end of the show. I'm not 100% sure whether you'll be able to do that in the window that you're watching the show, but you'll be able to open up another window, go on to community, and check the poll and see. Just stick a vote down, yes or no. Eddie Howe, is he the man for Newcastle United? Okay, big shout out to our sponsors. First and foremost, Spider VPN. They are the boys to trust for your internet security. Google Spider VPN. They come up at the top of your search list. Also, skipsandbins.com, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free, and pay as you go waste collection. And there is Sir Bobby on his camel with the lads playing football in the background. Big thanks to Scott for sending those up-to-date graphics. Also, L&G Family Funeral Directors, 01938972245, and qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle. Also, thanks to John at Jab Signature for presenting all of our flyers. And if you're a first-time visitor to the channel, then please subscribe. Hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner. And that's it. You can subscribe for free. We still do 7 shows a week. And we just sometimes change the times. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to your social media, and drop into the comment box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans or to ask a question. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and the rest. And a couple of events coming up as well. Evening McGavin Peacock, 29th of October. Tickets for that are £15. Our belated Christmas do, November the 19th at the Irish Centre. Tickets for that are £12. All proceeds to the food bank. 26th of November at the Irish Centre as well. Evening with Peter Beardsley. Tickets for that £15. All events, tickets, newcastlelegends.com. Click shop and you can buy your tickets. Also, next week, Evening with Rob Lee down at the Laurels Whitley in Whitley Bay. Tickets for that one, laurelswhitley.co.uk. Should be a cracking night, that. And a little bit later, 9th of December, another food bank event. Me and Supermac down at Bobix. Tickets for that, bobix.com. Food Bank is still in operation. The bucket, match day bucket, if you want to drop money in. Amazing figure, over $8,000 raised outside the game on Sunday. And don't forget, that is going to be matched pound for pound every match day by the Rubens, which is a fantastic gesture. So NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk. If you live away from the area or outside the country, you can still make a donation via the matchday bucket and still enter into the raffle to win the Newcastle Consortium Supporters Watch. News on how the pool competition will take place, where that winner will be drawn, will be available in due course. And don't forget, for all your information on Newcastle United, go to newcastleworld.com. That is where Liam Kennedy works at this moment in time. And newcastleworld.com doing really well, Liam. Good to see. And you were a busy boy at the match on Sunday.
Yeah, it wasn't just me. I had a reporter there as well, Toby Bryant. He did a couple of interviews outside, some great videos of the celebrations as well. Really good stuff from my team. Newcastle World, yeah, it's going strength to strength. Just a startup. We started in the summer. Really positive project. Positive view on Newcastle itself. As positive as we can be on Newcastle United. It helps that there's been a wave of negativity gone with the owner. But yeah, it's a good project, and I would urge anybody. I have the little bit at the bottom here. Just check out newcastleworld.com. Loads of stuff on there. Bit of what's on, gig reviews, what restaurants to use, 10 best breakfast places for the weekend, all this kind of thing, as well as your proper news stuff as well, and your Newcastle United analysis.
Yeah, okay. Early signs. I mean, it's not only 11 votes, but it's already starting to take shape. Is Eddie Howe the man for Newcastle United? Yes, 18%. No, 82%. So not a popular decision as at the moment. Look, we've touched on the game a little bit. I think let's talk about that pre-match atmosphere, Liam. We absorbed it. You've just said Newcastle World were outside covering it a little bit for Arab News as well that you were doing. I got there and I could not believe how many people were outside the ground that early. You couldn't get in 9 bar. There was a carnival atmosphere. I've not seen anything like that since the days of Kevin Keegan and Sir John Hall.
Yeah, very much so. There has been a real wave of positivity. I thought it was a place you had to be. It was a place you wanted to be around. I know lots of people who didn't have tickets and they all flocked to Newcastle City Centre because it was like Mecca for Newcastle United fans. They had to be at St James's Park, whether they had tickets or not. And it was there was a real buzz about the place. There was a buzz about the city. I came in on the metro on Sunday lunchtime, and it was chocker. It was absolutely rammed, and there were people in daft dress ups. There were people in Newcastle United shirts. It just felt like it felt like a start of something. It felt like a movement. Of course, as is always the case with Newcastle United, most of the time anyway, the football didn't do any favours. But it was about a lot more than that, wasn't it, Steve? It was about more than just the game, more than the result. Like I said, my reporter Toby spoke to Steve Hasty. Obviously, Steve Hasty, massive in the NUFC matters shows, does his Friday night with you and Mitch. He hit the nail on the head, absolutely, when he said the result didn't matter. This was about celebrating the end and celebrating the start of something incredible, which I absolutely, again, people are probably, I'll open myself up with some kind of criticism. What troll mates out there will probably think I'm being Mr. Positive again, but I do really feel like the conversations that I've had and bits that you hear that they're not here to mess around, and Newcastle United could well be in for a bright future. It's just that this short term, this first period of their ownership is possibly going to be one of the most difficult to navigate.
Yeah, I would agree, mate. I would agree. There's a comment posted on the poll, actually. Geordie Boy says, conceded 18 most goals in each of his last 4 Premier League seasons. Better than Bruce, but in the current circumstances, he isn't what we need. That's in response to the poll.
That's a fair point. Like I say, I wouldn't know enough about the way. I don't follow Bournemouth. I didn't follow them under Eddie Howe. So I don't know enough about the way he sets his teams up. to see whether it's what we need. But we need a defensively minded coach to just shut the door and go and win at Crystal Palace 1-0. Just stop them creating chances, and let's hope that St. Maximin, Wilson, Almiron, Willock can pop up with a goal, because they've got that in the team. The way they're playing at the moment just isn't fit for purpose.
No, it's not. Got to touch on the Stadium of Delight last night as well, Liam. Mackham under 23s won, Newcastle under 23s 2. We got a win down there with Jay Turner, Cook and Adam Wilson scoring the goals. I didn't go. I had been to previous games down there and seen Newcastle do okay. But yeah, I mean, that's a positive, isn't it? The youngsters starting to get results.
Yeah, there's been some good results. I think the academy teams are slightly improving. It couldn't have got much worse than some of the stuff that was presented up last season. But yeah, it's a club on the up. There's a lot of work needs done. A lot of work needs done at every level of the football club. But it's always good to see. Good to see the kids doing well. There's a couple of lads in there. I know. I think Joe White with that goal the first one might be claiming an assist, because I think it was his shot deflected off the lad and went in. And I think he's a player for me that needs the right kind of progression plan, the right process. Needs to get out, needs some good coaching and training, because I think he could be a special player. I think we've seen little bits. You came on and was fantastic. It was at Burton, wasn't it, Steve? You were there as well. He came on and lovely left foot. He was taking the corners. He was spraying balls around. He was chasing. He's quite a big lad as well for his position. But they've got a couple of good attacking midfielders. I mean, possibly you would call them forwards. They're both number 10s, really. Number 10s, and Joe White and Elliot Anderson. And they need the right kind of coaching, because Newcastle could have a couple of decent homegrown stars that could make that step up to the first team, no matter who the manager, no matter which level of players are brought in.
Yeah, we often touch on birthdays on the show. It's Big Sam's birthday today, actually. Sam Allardyce's birthday. I don't think many Newcastle fans sending congratulations to him. I've got to be honest. He shares it with Habib Bey, Mark Donager, and Phil Lever. Not names.
Illustrious.
An illustrious group of people there who he shares his birthday with. But yeah, Big Sam, happy birthday, mate. Awful as well to hear. I mean, we see this on a regular basis, on TV. And sad to hear that the club have confirmed that there's been an investigation of racism at the ground. There's been a photo doing the rounds on social media showing someone making a Nazi salute in the Leazes end. It's a disgrace, Liam, isn't it? We've still got to put up with this, in this day and age. And let's hope the club managed to sort that out.
Oh, I've not seen the picture, to be honest, Steve, but yeah, there's no place for it. There's absolutely no place for it in life, never mind football. So yeah, these people, I don't want them. I don't want them anywhere near my football club.
It's bang out of order, and let's hope that the club can stamp down on that. And please, if anybody does see anybody doing that in the ground, you've got to report it. Please report it. And well done to those people who did manage to bring that to not only the club's attention, but obviously now the police's attention. And I'm sure that person will be dealt with in due course. The hero of the day, sadly, wasn't somebody on the pitch as regards the result, but happily it was somebody in the stands. And Dr. Tom Pritchard, take a bow, son, came from the Gallagher end where I was sitting, and managed to bring the supporter around who'd had a cardiac arrest in the East stand, saved his life, mate. What a hero.
Oh, incredible. I've never experienced anything like it at football. It was some of the reactions of the players. Eric Dyer in particular stood out to me, the way he ran over and was screaming for the defib and the doctors to get over there and help out. But there was some real, like you say, life-saving performances from fellow fans, and I commend the actions of all of them. They'll probably tell you they were doing their job, they were doing the thing they're trained and meant to do, but not many people could have done that. And I think in the really difficult circumstances, unexpected circumstances, they're incredible people, and all credit to them.
As Jeff says, it puts it all in perspective. It certainly does, Jeff. It certainly does.
And I hope the person is okay and doesn't have any issues moving forward. Wish you all the best. All the best moving forward.
And I agree with that sentiment. And, the update we had yesterday from the club was that, he's making a recovery, was stable. So that's great news. And I'm sure that, we'll be thankful and hopefully get a chance to see Dr. Pritchard in due course. But well done, that man. As you say, probably only say he was doing his job, but what a job that was. Okay, we'll finish off with a poll because I know Liam's got to crack on and do some work. So a slightly shorter day. I am back, of course. On Wednesday night, we're going to do the Stephen Holly show. So I will be back Wednesday. Thursday night, me and Gibbo and Supermax, probably slightly earlier again. It's quite a funny week this week for work for me. But still the same shows. But tomorrow I'll be on with Holly. I know people like to see Holly each week. So she will be giving her views on the last 7 days at Newcastle United. The final results, only 32 votes, but it still gives us a little cross-section of people watching. Is Eddie Howe the man for Newcastle United? 22% said yes. 78% said no. I'll leave that poll up. Might keep referring to it as we go on through the week. Liam, a quick plug for Newcastle World.
Have a look down here, newcastleworld.com. Check it out. You can give me a follow on Twitter at Liam J Kennedy 23. So if you like the sort of thing that we do on here, you're definitely going to like this type of stuff that's on Newcastle World. Like I say, it's a cross section. It's a positive look on the city. So if you want to find out where the next restaurant you might want to go to, if there's any gigs in your area, what the latest COVID figures are, but anything. We do anything and everything in Newcastle World. I'm the editor, as I mentioned on the show a few weeks ago. We've got a good team and it's a really positive product. So yeah, give it a follow on all the social media channels. You can find it on Twitter, Instagram, you can find it on Facebook, dedicated Newcastle United page, particularly on Facebook. Give that a follow. And yeah, onwards and upwards.
2 quick fire questions. Geordie says, how's the puppy, Liam?
2 seconds. I'll see if I can. Can you see that?
Has it got its tongue out?
No.
No. What kind of dog is it?
A boxer.
Boxer. I thought it was. It's a boxer.
Yeah.
It's a boxer. Yes, I was working with Chris Eubank this weekend. That was my Chris Eubank impersonation. And Tom Dixon wants your prediction for the Palace game. I think you could probably give 2, couldn't you? If Steve Bruce is there, we're going to get beat. And if there's a new manager comes in, we might have a chance of getting a point.
I think we'll get beat 2-0. I'm just going to judge it on what the current situation is. I think we'll get beat 2-0.
Yeah, okay, mate. I won't keep you any longer. Thanks for your time, mate. See you next week. Take care, pal.
Yes.